Well, I guess that's happy. Hello everyone and welcome to Let's Play Kid Dracula for the Game Boy. This is notably a semi-sequel to an NES game in Japan that we only ever got in the Anniversary Collection about a year and a half ago now? 2 years? Master! That Garamoth, he's... Where's Garamoth? I thought I got rid of him. Ah, well, never mind. This time I'll thrash him for good. But Master, this time he's much stronger than he ever was. You'd better watch out and prepare well for battle. You've memorized all the magic spells, right? Yeah, the magic spells, right. The only one I remember is Bat. Now the game randomly throws a tutorial at you where you get to learn about the Bat transformation. It works similarly enough to the one in Symphony of the Night, but you have to access it by pressing the select button and then charging up your attack, in which case you can use it and fly around for about 5 seconds before you turn back into normal Kid Dracula. You've forgotten all of the magic You've forgotten all of the other spells, Master? Well, I'm sure I'll remember them when the time comes. What a good for nothing. If you get them wrong, you might as well want to join Garamoth. Alright, weird little gameplay difference right off the bat between this and the Japanese version of the game on Game Boy. In the Japanese version, you start off with 4 lives and 20 coins, when you only start with 2 and zilch here. Gameplay-wise, despite being a spin-off of Castlevania though, Kid Dracula at least controls more similarly to a Megaman game. Move with the D-pad, of course, jump with A button, but you can fire fireballs with the B button or charge them up to fire bigger ones. And whenever you take out an enemy with a charged attack, they drop a coin which is used between stages. In the mini-games, I'll show those off when the time comes. And this is notably a bit of a nostalgic trip for me, because the last time I played this, and this is a bit of a deep cut that only people who have been around a while would probably remember, in late 2014, early 2015, there was about a solid month or so, I'd say, where I had an extreme gastritis attack, and the update video I uploaded to explain what was happening was of this game, and it's just weird to look back, because that gastritis period sucked. I couldn't go to school that, like, 2 or 3 weeks. Mind you, it was mostly during, like, Christmas vacation, yeah, but nasty memories. Also, another weird little gameplay difference between the Japanese version and the American version. In this version, enemies play a bit by Megaman rules, where you can or if you destroy them and then scroll where they spawn off screen and then come back, they will respawn. But in the Japanese version, once an enemy's down, it's down for good, and I don't know why they changed that outside of maybe making it easier to grind for money to get extra lives in between stages. Now, despite what you might think just based off the title of the game, we are not actively playing as Dracula in this game, we're actually playing as his son. We are supposed to be some parodical version of Alucard in this game, which is much more evident in the game's manual storyline, which I'll go over after we finish this stage, because we're already getting close to the end of it. Although a notable difference here, you can go left or right here. Left is just for a health up, though. This will restore your health to max. Small ones restore your health by 1. But in the Japanese version, that heart looked a bit different. It had a border around it, which is still an item in this game, which raises your total health by 1 up towards a maximum of 5. I guess they figured giving you a health up in stage 1 was a little bit much, but I don't really get the point. Because this game isn't hard for the most part, though there are some rather irritating boss fights just due to the size of hitboxes and the screen crunch ratio and all that. The game is noticeably different on the Japanese version, or on the NES version rather, just because that plays much closer to a fair platformer throughout. I'll get to the NES version eventually. Because they are notably different games just with the same base mechanics. The minigames between stages are different, the stage designs are completely different between versions. The Game Boy versions essentially in the Japanese version, and even here as you saw by that intro, sort of played off to be a sort of sequel, but not really. The biggest difference in stages, though, comes here in the first stage, because the first stage in the NES game is essentially an adaptation of all the Castlevania 1 levels as one level, and it's kind of weird. Either way, though, we are coming up on the boss of Stage 1. These are going to be the Spirits of Halloween. These weird little ghost dudes who look eerily similar to clan members in the NES game jump from one direction several times, and when they land on the opposite side, they fire a couple projectiles that you can easily jump over, and then they'll run across the screen. After enough shots, you knock one out, and when it goes off screen, it gets replaced by a bigger one who does the exact same thing, but bigger. Larger jumps that tends to start halfway across the screen, bigger projectiles, I think maybe even one more, and a bit of a harder thing to jump over. I call this game easy, but it's easy to die in as well. The big thing is lives are just super easy to get in this game. And in Phase 3, we face the Eldest. You cannot damage this thing, period. It's just, you have to survive it moving left and right once. And that's about it. I do believe bosses had their HP increased in the American Game Boy version, but as you can see, that doesn't mean too much here. And that's Stage 1. It's pretty easy. Master! Master! Huh? That was you who betrayed me and went over to Garamoth's side? Wasn't it bad? That was... I'm sorry, Master. Can you ever forgive me? One cannot easily forgive a traitor, Bat. But I'm always honest to you, Master. It just happened. I have no time to play around. I'm a busy person. Master, are you about to go after Garamoth now? If so, will you please take me? Anyone who goes over to his side this time is going to get it. If that's all right with you, then you can come along. Yes, yes, I shall join you with pleasure. And my other bat friend will help too. Master? Wait for me! Wait, I'm coming too! Take me too! Alright. And for beating Stage 1, we get our next power-up, the Bat Attack. You press the select button until it says Attack on the bottom left, and you charge up your beam, and you instead throw 3 bats in sort of a 3/4 circle around you. It's got some good vertical reach. It probably has the best vertical reach outside of, like, the last ability we get in the game. But I do believe it is a little bit weaker than the basic charge shot. Hello, Kid Dracula. If you're in trouble, these can help you. You'll need 2 coins to try for more coins. You'll need at least 10 coins to try for another Kid Dracula. What is your wish? So these are the mini games I brought up earlier. Between each stage, all 8 stages in the game, you can access the roulette to get more coins for more lives, for 2 more coins, or you can select one of these 4 mini games after they do a little bit of a toss-up action to get potentially more lives. There are 4 mini games in total. I believe in the NES version, you couldn't select which game you wanted to play. I'm going to be trying to do them in the order of A through D. I'll be real though, more often than not, try to aim for Grab Bat, which is A, because you can easily get 7 lives per venture into here by catching as many bats as you can. For every 5 you capture, you get a 1-up, 2-up, and 4-up. What you're doing here is that there's going to be 4 bats in the trees who will occasionally leap down at you just to, I guess, try and spook you, and you need to jump up and catch them with the B button. The net's hitbox can only catch 1 bat at a time, though I believe if you mash it good enough and you have 2 bats in quick succession next to each other, you can potentially catch them both. Notably, the jumping timing here is a bit iffy. You can only catch them when they either go to around where the branch is or just above it on the tree on the right. Anything higher and you can't catch them. Like, I don't think you can catch them when they're at the second highest point they can reach. It's easy to get lives from that, and since it costs 10 coins per, I'm not sure if you heard that, my headset gun clips, that was weird. You can get a lot of lives pretty quickly just by doing that mini game. With that said, The next minigame we're going into, which is Stick'em option B, isn't bad for that either. It just requires more luck than execution, which is why I like Grab Bad, which is more execution over luck. This is also, I think, one that was in the NES version, because I do believe they just switched some of the minigames up, period. With this, you got 12 holes in a barrel with a skeleton in it, and you have, I believe, 11 total, or is it 10 total, swords. You need to stab in these swords one at a time, and for every 4 you get in, you get an extra life. I believe if you get them all in, if for some reason you don't manage to trigger the skeleton's hitbox, I believe it resets, and you can get more extra lives than you would expect, but I believe that might only be the NES version. My general strategy for this one is just to kind of go in a spiral, down, then right, then up, and hope I don't get the skeleton hurt, but it's kind of hard to happen because it's entirely luck-based, really. With that, now it's time for us to head into Stage 2. Which, notably, every single one of the levels in this game has a name. I believe level 1 is Kid Drak's Castle Home, whereas this is the Forest of Fools. And we got something really annoying off the start of this stage, in that there's going to be little faces on the tree, eventually. The first faces won't do much, but the second one onwards will try to suck you in, and I believe that'll put you either to the next face below them, or even all the way back down to the bottom. That hurt there was notably a health up, and also another annoying thing about this stage, as you can see here, the ladders are a bit picky about their hitbox in this game. I feel like it just is that you can't grab a ladder once you're descending, but that makes grabbing onto them really annoying, so just use the bat transformation. It's going to save you a lot of headache. Alright, in the last stage, though, I mentioned that the game's plotline becomes a lot more clear when you read the manual. I say that in the loosest of terms, so let's take a look at what the manual has to say about this game. Children of the night, your leader has come, and he's a really good dude at heart. And his name is Kid Dracula, not to be confused with his old man, the Count, or any of those pasty-faced phonies you see flaunting their fake fangs in the flicks. This is the coolest little terror to come out of Transylvania since the Teenage Werewolf. But don't get a big head to go along with your big hair, because just showing those pearly whites won't scare away the evil of Garamoth, a tyrannical lizard king who transported himself from the year 2 billion BC just to terrorize Kid Drak's weird and wild and wonderfully wacky kingdom. No way, Castle Boy. Wasn't Garamoth supposed to be from the future, not the past? To save the night, you must become Kid Dracula and sink your teeth into 8 of the craziest Game Boy levels ever. You must venture into 5 different sub-games where extra players can be won. Along the way, you'll encounter and hopefully eradicate a host of horrors, including Frankenpunk, Transfusion, and the greatest pea-brain predator of them all, Garamoth. Survive, and the cold, drafty concrete crypt you call home will be back in black. Fail, and you'll be seeing red for the rest of your life. Which in eternal vampire years is pretty much forever. Zoinks! Talk about a fantastic adventure. Ugh. That hurt me to read. Level 2 is notably where I think the difficulty starts to spike up pretty early, just because this game is easy in concept, but some of the tight spaces they give you to maneuver around on the small Game Boy screen can notably make the game harder than it has to be. For instance, these enemies, which I believe in the manual are called the Trout Who Wouldn't Die for some reason, can hit you pretty easily, just even if you're trying to walk under them. And that issue very much comes into play in a later portion of this screen we're coming up on right about now, these bridges. The moment you step on the bridge, it starts falling apart. Jumping is not helpful there because jumping is actually, I think, a little bit slower than just walking normally. And the fish will just constantly jump out of the waterfall in such a way that you either have to jump ahead of time and then fire your projectile, or just hope you can walk under it. The timing here is really specific, and it's surprisingly hard for a second stage because of that, if you're new to the game. With that, though, we're coming up on the boss of Stage 2. This is going to be Jason, who is parodying exactly who you think he's going to be before he even shows up. The first phase of this fight, he's going to burst out of the door in this cabin and walk over to the axe to try and grab it. You can spam fire a couple of charge shots or even just normal attacks in this one to take his HP down. But once he gets it, he's going to try and charge at you and just swipe with the axe. But if you attack him while he's charging up the throw, you completely stun him and he can't actively get it off. Jumping over him is surprisingly hard to do, though, when the time comes, so hopefully you can get his HP down before it gets to that point. In Phase 2, he jumps up on the roof and starts firing his gun at you. He can fire a triple spread shot, a double spread shot, or he can just try and come up to you and, I guess, just run into you to be like, hey, stop that. With that said, Once you get to this phase, if you just fired shard shots, it's easy to lock him into the triple shot, as you just saw there. So it's not that threatening of a boss fight. And for beating it, we technically get that gun, we get the homing spell, which sort of acts as a spread shot from Contra, in that you fire 5 shots out in an arc in front of you, but whenever there's an enemy on screen that it can theoretically reach without going off screen, the homing shot will then home in on an enemy. Notably though, it is much weaker than any of the other charge shots in the game individually. Only when all 5 of the shots are piled up do I believe it can do enough damage to equal it, and even then, with the invincibility frames bosses get, it seldom gets a chance to do so. But now it's time for Game C, my least favorite minigame in the game, RPS. It's rock, paper, scissors. So, luck-based to begin with, which is never fun. You change which icon you're using with the D-pad, and you start with the A button. If you win, you need to press A or B to attack and deal damage to the opponent. If you lose, you can defend by pressing, I believe, up or down. I don't know why, I just find this really hard to grasp in concept. If you lose twice, you're out. However, you don't need to get all 5 wins to get 1-ups. Even for just winning the once, I have gotten a 1-up. It's just kind of annoying, and if I recall correctly, this was also in the original game, just in a slightly different manner? It's weird. Also notably, in the manual, for some reason the homing attack is called the wing and homing missiles, and I don't get why. All the attacks have completely different names in the manual. And one of the ones we get from the later stage especially are just kind of dumb. But this is the roulette you can get coins at. You can bet 2, 4, 6, or 8 coins at a time. I believe the star is 10 coins. And when you start the roulette, I believe you get, I forget if you get the amount you put in or if you just get double it. I'm honestly not sure. I'll be real, I never use this. You can get enough coins in this game just by farming out one enemy at a time and scrolling them off and on screen again that you never need to use that. Unless you're doing like a speed run, I suppose, but why would you do that in a speed run? But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 2, we're going to be taking out a few more of the game stages. See you guys then.